Welcome, everybody, to the Hockey Think Tank podcast, brought to you by Hockey Think Tank U, an online community for all passionate players, parents, and coaches to go to get a little bit of education and a little bit of inspiration regarding the greatest game on the planet. What an episode we have for you guys here today. We are bringing on college hockey news reporter Mike McMahon. He's awesome, man. Like, he is so dialed in on what is going on in college hockey today. And there are a lot of changes in college hockey today, particularly when it comes to the recruiting landscape. And so we talked to him about all those changes. So many questions that I get from parents. What is going on in college hockey with this recruiting stuff? And he just puts great perspective on it. Before we do get over to Mike, though, let's bring on the talent of the podcast, Jeffrey J. Hulavecchio. Vex, what's going on today?
Much, brother, man. Just Wednesday here in St. Louis, so it's my podcast day. Don't have to be in the gym with the boys, and work day for the kids. So super exciting, and love the episode that we just recorded. Not loving the fact that I couldn't be on this one, unfortunately, due to business.
Yeah, it is just me and Mike for this episode. Vex had some last minute things that he had to take care of, so he ditched us. But man, Mike he's awesome, man. Like, he's a great follow on Twitter. He's got a great newsletter, College Hockey Insider. He's always kind of right up on the scoop of everything that's going on. And so the basis of this podcast was just me asking him about the biggest changes that have happened in the college hockey recruiting landscape over the past 3 to 4 years. We talk about the transfer rule, where you can transfer now without any penalty of having to sit out a year. We talk about NIL and being able to pay players. And we talk about the major junior rule, where now the CHL players that were playing up in Canada that used to be deemed professional athletes by the NCAA no longer are. And so it has completely shifted the landscape. And I want to make sure that I caveat something really quickly here. And so the changes that we're talking about are the same for the men and women. So for all of the girls that are listening to this with dreams of playing college hockey, the transfer portal is a part of that, huge part of that. The NIL is a little bit, maybe not as much of the men's side, but there are certainly some women that are getting paid to play college hockey. The one thing that doesn't affect the women's game is the CHL rule, where major junior players can come down because there is no major junior for women up in Canada through that. Another rule that is coming down the hopper is 5 years of eligibility now, as opposed to 4, which has not been voted on yet, as this podcast will be released. But Mike and I talk about it because that has another ability to completely shift the net landscape, which is honestly just insane, man. Absolutely just insane. And so this was a great conversation, making sense of it all, what's going on in college hockey recruiting today. Vex, I know you train a lot of junior players, you train a lot of college players. Like, what is the vibe in like your gym as it relates to all of these changes? Because honestly, dude, like, any one of these changes would completely make the landscape go sideways from a recruiting standpoint. And there's been 3, potentially 4 within like a 4 to 5 year window. So like, what are you hearing on the front lines with the guys that you know?
I mean, it's just like a lot. How could you not be rattled? You know, if you're going into your 3rd year juniors, your last year, you've gotten better and better each year, you've gotten interest from schools, and now all of a sudden you're hearing, oh, wait a minute, I'm only going to have 2 years of college eligibility. That wasn't a thing when I decided to play juniors. That wasn't a thing when I decided to play my 2nd year. That wasn't a thing when I decided to come back for my 3rd year at the end of the year. I'm just now hearing about this. I mean, it sucks, dude. Excuse my language, but it's an absolute butt clap.
It's the worst for kids that are coming up, like all of these rules, because now teams are recruiting more from the transfer portal as opposed to freshmen and juniors. Teams are, you know, with the CHL rule, the player pool just got completely opened up by thousands of players, and there's the same amount of college hockey teams. And then if this 5th year thing comes through, like, I really, really feel for 18, 19, 20-year-old junior hockey players on the men's side right now, and potentially, 17, 18-year-old women on the women's side with all of these changes. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a joke. And honestly, and I was telling the boys, like, college hockey is not the college hockey that you and I played in. Is it a good thing that some players can transfer? Yes. But like, why isn't it a rule if you played less than 10% of your team's games? Okay, maybe that guy can transfer, or you played less than 5%. I don't know what that is, but being able to transfer to a better school because you had a good year, they're going to give you more money. It's ruined college hockey. It's ruined pride in the jersey, in the university, in everything that made college hockey college hockey. College hockey is now just a level of professional hockey before you get to professional hockey. Yeah, it's great that players get paid NIL. I mean, that's cool. But even if we had that and you couldn't just transfer willy-nilly, it had to be like, you didn't play more than 5% of your team's games and you get one transfer and that's it, and you're done. At least then it wouldn't be the wild, wild west with guys transferring schools left and right. There's no pride. It's individual. It's very pro hockey now. And like we said, it screws all these kids. And let's not forget that allowing major junior players to play college hockey screws a lot of American kids too. Like that screws a lot of American kids who are the ones, majority of them, that are going to American universities. So like we're screwing American kids over now by allowing that to happen. Does it make college hockey better and give players more of a ramp to become a pro? Yeah, that's a positive. But also you can play CHL. I don't know, man. Like I'm American. I like America. I like putting American kids first over other kids.
You also like meritocracy though.
I do like meritocracy, but like we're in America. We should take American kids first and then take care of other kids second.
Yeah. I mean, there's
so many things.
There's no doubt that the CH rule has, created more of a difficulty for American kids to play Division I college hockey. There's no question. But I want to flip it because I think this is really important, because I think there's a lot of kids that listen to our podcast. And I think what you said there is not the way that I hope they hear what you said. And that is this CHL rule screwed American kids. Didn't screw American kids. Did it make it harder? Yeah. But you know what? It's going to reward absolutely 100% the kids who are resilient and have the life skills to be able to stick it out and not see this as I'm getting screwed and you're a victim. It's more like, okay, now I need to work harder. That's a fact. Did it make it harder? Yeah. Like that is a fact. But at the same time, there are going to be kids that are going to see this as, yep, I got screwed. And then there's going to be another type of kid who sees this as, holy crap, I got to get to work. It just got a lot more competitive. And guess what? Who's going to be the better player for that at the end of the day? Not the kid who's a victim, the kid who looks in the mirror, understands reality and says, let's go. And so again, we talk so much about how important life skills are to reaching your dreams. This is exhibit A of what that is. I don't know many victims or people who play victim or people who make excuses or people who succumb and surrender to the things that they can't control, who have amounted to anything in this game or life in general. The people who quote unquote make it, whatever that means to you, are the ones who focus on what they can control. They're the hardest working players out there. And when adversity hits, they're not the ones that wilt and make excuses. They're the ones that get to work. And so I think it's really important for all the kids that are listening and for all the parents that are listening too, who need to support their kids potentially through this, is that there's a reality that it got harder for anybody, not just American kids, for anybody to play college hockey. But you can think about it in one of two ways. One way is going to help you get closer to your dreams. One way is going to get you a lot further from them. So I wanted to make sure that I said that because, when you say they got screwed, they didn't get screwed. It got harder, but it's the world we live in.
I think they got screwed, but yes, it is harder. The kids coming up below them didn't get screwed. The kids, no team is going to take a player for 2 years when they could take a player for 4 years.
Are you talking about the 5th-year rule?
Yeah, like that rule.
Not necessarily.
Dude, I mean, if you're playing a 3rd year of juniors or a 4th year of juniors, odds are you're going to be the last guy picked for your college team more often than not. And if they could just use that pick for somebody who's, younger and is going to have 4 years, like teams are going to take that over the 2-year guy, unless
And why are teams recruiting through the transfer portal, getting kids for 1 year?
Because they're already
transferring
proven in
from their
college
junior or
hockey.
senior
Completely
year.
different. It's not the same thing. Proven in college, last year trying to make it in juniors.
There's some truth to
every
that.
time.
But again, go back to the things you can control. If you're one of the best players on your team or one of the best players in your league, somebody's going to take you, you know?
And I don't know. And we'll see. We'll see.
Yes, 100%. A lot of this will remain to be seen. You make valid points. I will not say that you are wrong.
I agree
you make
with
valid
you.
points.
You can't allow your mindset to go there. But me as somebody out of it, I will comment on it and be like, this sucks for these kids.
Yes.
Yeah. Very
And if those kids have your mentality right now, they're not going to.
Yeah, they can't. They can't.
So
can't have that mentality.
Yeah. And with that, actually, something that I wanted to talk about. So we started this hockey think tank community, right? And one of the coolest parts about it is I get to take all of the people that I know in this game and they're going to help contribute to different things, whether it's things that they've said on our podcast, whether it's they're making content for me through this thing. And so one of the things that we want to do as like a little bit of a feature in our intros now is I'm going to play a little bit of a clip of some things that we have in our Hockey Think Tank U community that we think adds a lot of value to whether you're a player, a coach, or a parent. And so the first one that I wanted to talk about here, this is a clip that I put on. So every day has like a different theme, and every Thursday there's a clip for parents that can help give you perspective or help you give your kid perspective based on a video or something that we put on here. And so I had the ability to interview a guy named Todd Connaught a bunch of years back. Nodder is now the associate head coach of Wisconsin, who just went to the national championship game, widely known as one of the most respected coaches in college hockey. And so I just put a clip out in the HTTU community this past Thursday of an interview that I did with Nodder. And again, that's one of the coolest things about this community now is like, think of all the social media posts that I've done, or through Vex and I, through the podcast or other types of things that we've done. It's all in one place now. And it's all categorized. So if like you're a parent, we have so much stuff for you on all the things that we've done on the perspective of being a hockey parent. If you're a coach, we have so many things in there for you, from tactics to development to all these kinds of things. We have a mindset Monday for kids. Like, so if you're a parent that's in here, these are like videos that you can share with your kid to give them some motivation for the week and things like that. So like, I wanted to play this clip for you. And this is from Todd Connaught, like I said, one of the best guys in the game. And this is the clip. And he's talking about summer hockey and just how, some coaches at the college level view it as far as how we can support our kids through it.
It's different for everyone in terms of development. The one consistent I see is kids that love to do it, not forced to do it. And I think a big piece of that is allowing them to still be a kid. Every time my brother talks about summer hockey, I said, has your boy been fishing? And he giggles, he's big into it. Yeah, they fish all the time, because I think that's a big piece of it, is being a kid.
So I think, again, this is the associate head coach at University of Wisconsin who just went to the national championship game. What's his advice? Let your kid be a kid. The players who love the game are the ones that have the success. They absolutely love it. And so we think about how can we put them in environments where they're going to love it. It's not playing hockey 365 days a year. Like now it becomes a job. Now it becomes a chore. And so the summer is a time to recharge. The summer is a time to get better off the ice. The summer is a time, and again, to be a kid, play other sports, hang out with your friends, have unstructured time, let them recharge the battery so they're ready to go. And again, these are things that we see all the time. These are things that the smartest people in our game are trying, screaming from the rooftops to get parents to understand that you don't run the race to the wrong finish line, And so Nodder, again, one of the most respected people. So this was a clip we put out. These are the types of clips that we have, the types of perspective and content that we have in our community. So wanted to share that with you guys here today. Vex, you got anything to add really quickly before we get into Mike's conversation?
Yeah. Have fun in the summer, guys. Take the pressure off. The amount of young kids that talk to me about being anxious and nervous and all of these things in the summer, it's wild, guys. Like, enjoy it every single day. Remind yourself hockey is fun. If you do that, you're going to enjoy working harder. If you work harder for longer and you enjoy doing it, consistency wins. So stay consistent, make everything you do have fun all summer long with your buddies, with your teammates.
All summer long. What song is that? Is that a Kid Rock song?
Kid Rock, yeah. Yeah, good tune.
All right, guys. So if you want to go to the community and you want to join, we got over 250 people in there already. A piece of content like this kind of video every single day that you can come on, and you can also ask. We got so many fun things. Like I do a weekly office hours where I make myself available for anybody in there to hop on a Zoom to come and talk some hockey with me or ask me questions. And it's just an awesome place. So httU.thehockeythinktank.com, and we'll make sure that we put a link in the show notes for that as well. But man, awesome conversation with Mike here. Before we do get over to him, we do have some people to thank. First and foremost, want to thank our title sponsor, icehockeysystems.com, the best website out there, not only anymore for just your coaching education needs, but they have family accounts. And so they have great things for parents and parent perspective, which we obviously think is really important, and also player development stuff for the kids as well. We've partnered with them on these family accounts and also for association platforms, so you can get Ice Hockey System for everybody in your association. So go to icehockeysystems.com today. Check that out. Thousands of drills for coaches, the ability to go in and draw them up and send them out to your team, and build libraries for coaches. And then, like I said, parents and players, we got stuff in there for you too. So go to icehockeysystems.com today and check it out.
I want to give a massive shout out to Train Heroic, guys. We almost hit our 500 number for my online off-season training. If you're looking for training this off-season, that is extremely affordable, basically free, if you ask me. I've got 13 and under at-home workouts. So mom and dad, you don't have to worry about getting your kiddos to the gym or anything like that. They can do everything from home with very, very minimal equipment. And then I've also got my in-gym program for older, more serious players, and that's the big one. So Train Heroic has allowed me to work. We're working with close to 500 players just on that alone right now. Organizations, working with them, with all their players. Reach out if you guys need online training, whether it's for 2 months, 3 months, in season, off season, individual player. All right. My whole goal with my online arm of my business is to help as many players as I possibly can, as cheaply as I possibly can, which we have done now with 34,000 plus athletes. So massive thank you to Train Heroic for letting me do all that.
Boom. Want to thank also Helios Hockey, the best player development tool on the market. What is it? It is a sensor that you put into your shoulder pad that gives you real-time data and feedback on your play, specifically on two fun things. Number one being a hustle score. So every time you move, that sensor moves, and it gives you a sense, play on words, of how hard you're working, how fast you're skating out there on the ice. You can compare your hustle score with people from all over the world. It's a really cool thing that the kids absolutely love. And then secondly, your skating. Unbelievable development tools on there for your skating, stride, technique, all that kind of stuff. Helios Hockey is an incredible tool. Ambassadors like Olympic MVP Caroline Harvey, ever heard of her? Matthew Nyes, playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're believers in this. I know there's a lot of teams that are actually using this to track different things for their kids, even at the college level, all the way down to the youth level. So go to helioshockey.com today, guys, and use the coupon code ThinkTank, one word, and you will get a 20% discount on your Pro Annual or Pro 24-month subscription. The kicker, which I forgot to say too, is this syncs up with your video, and you can directly after a game or practice, you get your shifts cut up for you, your reps cut up for you, because it syncs with video no matter what it is, Live Barn, iPhone, iPad, camera, whatever. Like, it syncs up. Man, would that be a time saver? Something Vex and I wish we had back in the day. Also want to thank Crossbar. Crossbar is your end-to-end software solution to help you streamline and make efficient all your operations for your youth hockey club. We're talking about a really, really, really easy website design and use for that. We're talking about really, really easy ways for financial management, facility management. We're talking about manager type of resources to make it easy to communicate with your teams. We're talking guys, this is a one-stop shop to be able to run your youth hockey organization. There's a 5-star communication app, scheduling, everything from like big season type stuff to little things like drop-ins and stick and puck type stuff. Like, go to crossbar.org today. Check that out. It'll make your life so much easier if you are a youth hockey president or a hockey director that is listening to this right now. Also, Vex, I'm going to have you thank all of our listeners here right now. Let's go, baby.
We appreciate you guys. 7 years, ride or dies. We love you guys. Keep sharing the show, please. Parents, players, coaches, organizations, anybody that you think will help from listening to our show. And if you guys have guests you want us to have on, if you guys have topics you want us to cover, please, we do the show for you. We do it for the parents, for the coaches, and for the players, just to give out all of the wisdom that both Topher and I have gained through our careers, both playing, coaching, managing, as well as every guest we bring on. We're not chiclets. We're not telling dirty stories. We're actually trying to help each and every one of you have a better experience in the game, love the game more, and get better at the game. So please keep sharing the show so we can keep doing this week after week. We love you all. Thank you.
Love you guys. And this was an awesome episode. If you have any interest in college hockey, particularly college hockey recruiting, you're going to get a lot of your questions answered here today with Mike. And so without further ado, here we go with college hockey news reporter, college hockey insider newsletter, Mike McMahon. We are so excited to have on this episode of the podcast. He is the college hockey insider. We got Mike McMahon on the pod. Mike, how you doing out in Beantown today?
I'm doing good. It's starting to get a little warmer, which is nice. We're not all the way there yet, but I'll take 50s over like the single digits that we had all winter. So I'm
yeah,
pretty good.
Certainly.
You can golf in this, which is fine.
Yeah, totally. All right. With you, I want to get right into it. Because, man, if I had a dime for every college hockey question that I get about what the hell is going on in college athletics and how that relates to college hockey right now. And, I am a subscriber to your newsletter, and you always have such amazing information on just what's happening currently. And you have great takes and coming from college hockey, been there a long time. Like I have so much respect for what you do. And so I thought it'd be really cool to get you on here, because so many people are wondering, what is going on and what can I do if my kid has a dream of playing at that level to help them to get there. And so, how I've kind of explained it, and now there's kind of like a fourth change coming on the horizon, which is certainly going to alter the landscape. But there's been three monumental changes that have happened in the past few years that, with any one of these changes, would have completely made the landscape completely different. And they all kind of happened within a few year span. And so I wanted to, my first question to you is, there's these three rule changes that have happened. Number one is opening up college hockey to major junior hockey up in Canada. So the CHL, that was number one. Number two is the transfer portal, and opening up the transfer portal where you can basically transfer without penalty and play the next year. And then the third one is just money in college athletics, NILs, revenue share, Alston money. There's so many different ways to get it for the athletes now with these court cases. And so I wanted to ask you first and foremost, which one of those rules do you think has made the biggest impact? Is it the transfer portal? Is it the CHL coming down to college now? Or is it the kind of the money getting into it now? Which have, in your perspective, talking to so many people at the college level, do you think has seismically changed the landscape the most?
I think it's a CHL change for a couple of reasons. And it's combined the CHL change with the roster cap rule for the teams that opt into the house settlement, which I don't think it gets talked about as much, because for some teams, having to cap your roster at 26 players is not a big deal. They were already carrying 26.
Yeah. Can you explain that for people who don't understand? So when the revenue share money lawsuit went down, and kids could get paid, each sport within the NCAA made roster caps if you chose to enter into the revenue share program. So can you just explain that a little bit for those that don't know?
Yeah. So it was, you've probably heard it talked about. It's called the house settlement. It's what allows teams or schools to now directly pay their players. Last year, there were 39 out of the 63 hockey playing schools had opted in. There'll be more next year. I think all those 39 that opted in this year will opt in again next year, and they'll probably, I know there's a few more that will opt in for next year that didn't this year. So we'll probably be somewhere in the 40s next year, which is 2/3 of college hockey. And in order to revenue share, one of the things they did was get rid of the scholarship limit. So you're not bound to 18 scholarships anymore, but they hard capped the roster. And they came up with a formula that was kind of a universal formula, just blanketly applied it to every sport. 26 is what the cap is right now for hockey. Not a lot of coaches think that's enough. It may increase.
It's not enough at all. It's a big problem. Yeah,
I agree. Like most people I talk to think that 28 is a reasonable number. So you're close, right? But I look at it right now going, you're dressing, now with the extra skater, you're dressing 19 skaters and a goaltender for every game, right? So that only leaves you 6 healthy scratches and no other place to go get players. Like if a guy gets hurt in the middle of the year, it's not like the AHL where you can go to the coast and bring a guy up, or you've got 3 healthy scratches basically on a night-to-night basis. So 28 feels like a more reasonable number, but in any event, it's a 26 right now. And I think it doesn't sound like a huge thing to people that might not pay that close of attention, because you go, oh, well, most schools were only carrying 28 to 30 as it is, and now you cap it at 26. It's only 2 players. Well, it's probably more on average. I looked at this about a year ago. The average roster size 2 years ago was almost 29. It was like 28.8 or something like that. So take 29 players. So you take 3 players per team out of college hockey, it's 180 roster spots that just went away. It's 180 roster spots that went away at the same time where you expanded the player pool by about 1,200 players.
With the CHL.
Yeah. So because you get about 60 teams, and maybe not every single one of those players is good enough to play college or even academically eligible, but they're all dressing about 20 players a game. So you expanded the pool by roughly 1,200 players. At the same time, you took away 180 roster spots. You combine those two things, it just got a lot harder to play Division I college hockey. So that's why I think that's the one that's going to have the biggest effect, because the pool has increased so exponentially. Now, like, I've talked to coaches this year. Every time I've talked to a coach this year, I've asked them one question. Well, I've asked them a lot of questions, but I've always asked this one question over and over again, and I've not gotten a no yet. I've said, hey, do you think we now live in a world where maybe you're not going to recruit a player out of the USHL or the CHL necessarily? You may recruit them when they were younger, but does a player have to play in one of those leagues to get to your team if you're a Division I school? I've not gotten a no yet. Most teams are like, yeah, like 100%. If you can't make a team in one of those 3 leagues, one of the 3 CHL leagues or the USHL, you're probably not going to be able to play on our roster. So that was definitely not the case. I mean, think about it. I think if you include the program, 17 USHL teams. There wasn't even enough teams to fill out all of college hockey 2 years ago. Now, so you obviously had a lot of players that played in the BCHL, the North American League, like they were still playing Division I. I don't know. I think we may be entering a world where if you're not playing in one of those 4 leagues, it's going to be very unlikely that you're able to go Division I. It's going to be very rare that players jump from one of those other leagues to Division I because the pool is so much bigger. Yeah.
It's been one of those things for me when I get asked by particularly American parents and American kids, how does this affect me in my journey to college hockey? And I always think that honesty is the best policy. And it's like, it just got a lot harder. It got a lot harder. There are less roster spots now, and the player pool has been significantly increased by 3 of the best junior leagues in the entire world. And so it's one of those things, like we always talk with the young kids about how important it is for like delayed gratification, and you're not going to get the results you want right away. And I do think that resilience and stick-to-itiveness is going to be a necessary attribute to play Division I hockey coming up, because it did get a lot harder. And even the kids that are 15 and 16, or I should say 16 and 17, that are young and get the scholarships verbally, there's a lot of them that aren't going to be there when they eventually get to 18, 19, 20 years old, when college players typically go in as freshmen. It's just become such a more difficult path because of what you said. And I love what you said there too. It's not just the expansion of the player pool, but with the revenue share agreement and the lowering of the number of roster spots, bigger player pool, less seats at the table. And then a school like Mercyhurst is out too, and AIC is out too. And just, I worry about more schools potentially that are a little bit smaller leaving. And that's awful. I hope that doesn't happen. But I think with that, and I want to get back to the CHL, but just because it's pressing and we're talking about it right now, a lot of the questions that I get from people that don't know much about college hockey is like, oh, because of all of these rule changes, there's going to be more college hockey programs at the Division I level, right? And I'm kind of like, no. So what can you tell us about just kind of like college hockey expansion, maybe not even just at the Division I level, but Division III and ACHA, and how this major junior rule has affected just kind of the landscape of the amount of teams and where they're all slotted?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think from a hockey standpoint, it's very easy to say there's so many more players now, more schools should add teams. From a hockey perspective, that makes complete and total sense.
Totally.
The problem is that the people making those decisions are not hockey people. You know, we're talking about university presidents and board of trustees that probably a large majority of them don't even know what the CHL is, right? And it's, those decisions are going to be based on money. AIC and Mercyhurst are prime examples of that. They were lines on a spreadsheet. So I think if we're looking for expansion, I've said this for a while, look at the teams, at least from a Division I standpoint, that have the most recently created programs. Long Island, Lindenwood, Maryville, St. Thomas, which elevated from D3. But Augustana, smaller schools. A lot of those schools aren't even Division I schools. Like Augustana is a D2 school playing up D1 hockey. Maryville is going to be the same. Lindenwood is a D1 school, but a smaller one. Stonehill is a Division I school, but a smaller one. I think the most likely group of schools that could provide expansion are those smaller schools that don't have Division I football or FBS football, and they don't have big college basketball, because those sports are going to require a lot of money, especially in a new world where you have to pay your players. So football in particular too. I think the money's it's up there in basketball, but there's fewer roster spots. So to me, that's not as much of a concern as football is. So I think it's the smaller schools give you a real opportunity to expand because they might be able to actually afford it. Because it's an expensive sport. We all know that. It's an expensive sport to sponsor. The other group of schools, which I find interesting, because I think some of these schools could be really good immediately, are big Division I athletic departments that have big college basketball but don't have a football program, like Providence. Providence is like that. You look at schools like, all right, well, what fits the Providence football? They have a lot of money coming in, a big donor base. They're a big athletic department, but they don't have to spend any of their money on football. I look at schools like I think Creighton is one, right? Like they could be really good really quickly in a sport like Division I men's hockey, because they've got a lot of resources around them, and they don't have football to spend their money on, or big football, FBS football. So those are it's two groups of schools, but I think the one common thread is no FBS football that's going to require, 18 to whatever, $19 million in revenue sharing on a roster. The schools that don't have that are the ones that are probably going to be best positioned to start hockey programs if they want to.
Yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about that. That's interesting. I'm going to go on a fact finding mission after this and see some schools like that. Okay, so talking about the CHL, you talk to a lot of college hockey coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches. I'm sure a lot of agents and people that have understanding of what's going on. What are the biggest things you're hearing on the recruiting landscape of how things have changed with the CHL? I know when I talk to people, that are still buddies of mine in college hockey, they're in Brandon, or they're in Moose Jaw, or they're in Ontario and Oshawa, or wherever. What are some of the changes you're seeing from a recruiting landscape with the CHL rule?
I think teams are going fewer places, right? Because they're not necessarily having to find kids you can't recruit them at this age, but you need to be able to identify them at 14 or 15 years old. There's a lot of teams that I don't think are as concerned with doing that now as they were before. There's even a push. I mean, I know the coaches convention, I think it's middle of May now. It got pushed back a little bit down in Florida, but there's a push by a lot of coaches right now to even push back the recruiting timeline even later. Right now, you can start to make offers August 1st, before a player's junior year. There's talk of like, well, why don't we push that to August 1st before their senior year? Why are we going to look at 15-year-olds? We don't have to anymore. If they sign a CHL contract, it doesn't matter to us. We can still get them. The concern obviously before was those players wipe out their eligibility before you're even able to talk to them. Well, it's not a concern anymore.
Yeah.
So not only are I think more coaches having conversations with older players, I think they're going fewer places, right? Like I've had coaches say to me this year, one in particular was a Hockey East-based school. I've told the story a couple of times now where he said, this was in December, I think I had the conversation with him. He goes, right now, normally we would be like knee deep in prep hockey rinks. We'd be going to prep games all week long, all weekend. Saturday morning, if we played Saturday night, we'd be at a prep game. This coach was like, we haven't been to any this year. We haven't gone to a single one. And he goes, and I probably won't because I don't need to be. I can go to the queue and get a player that's more ready to come to us because those guys, obviously, they may get there, but they're a little more of a long-range prospect. So that's been the biggest thing. I think it's actually probably helped teams, I'm guessing, spend a little less money on recruiting than they did before in terms of travel and things like that. Because you can go up during the week, especially like around here. If you're a New England-based team, you can jump up into the queue and catch 2 or 3 teams in one weekend, or maybe even more if you stay out there and there's a midweek game or something. So I think that's been the biggest thing is they're because the player pool is so much bigger, they're able to recruit from they're able to go into smaller footprints and not have to cast such a wide net because things are a little more centralized.
Yeah, and I want to ask you because it's something that I hear a lot too. Is you're seeing a lot more. Just specifically talking about the men's side, you're seeing a lot more guys like not watching as much midget hockey anymore, like you said, because you don't really have to. And it's obviously Mike Schaefer is a legend at Cornell, and I got to play for him and work with him, and he always called young recruiting legalized gambling. Because you have no idea what you're going to get. A kid is not the same at 15 and 16 years old from what they're going to get to you at 18, 19, 20. And so, and when I was in it, like it was, 10, 15 years ago. And the big fight was, we got to go younger to keep kids here so they don't go to the CHL. That was what we talked about a lot down at those conventions down in Florida. But everybody did not want to do young recruiting. I think everybody understood how toxic that could be for the kids and also for college hockey in general. But it was for the big schools anyway that could get the top kids at those ages. It was necessary to do that, or else they were going to go play in London or they were going to go play in the WHL or the OHL or the Q. And now that's been eliminated. You don't have to recruit against the CHL in that factor. There's other ways that colleges are recruiting against the CHL as they get older and they're already in the CHL. But this could be, and the fact that coaches are talking about making the recruiting timeline later, I think that would be really good for college hockey. I think that would be really good for youth hockey, for crying out loud. Making people understand that it really is a marathon and not a sprint. And now that we've gotten a little bit later in the path, that's more reason for that. So yeah, that's really interesting. And how do you see this in how it relates to kind of like college hockey roster ages? Now that the CHL is involved, do you see college hockey maybe getting a little bit younger? We got to get a kid in here, or can we let them stay in the CHL? Can we let them stay in the USHL till they're 19, 20? Because again, when I was in it, when Yale won and when Union won with 20-year-old rosters as freshmen and their average age was, 23, 20, whatever it was old. Yeah. People were like, ooh, okay, that's the competitive advantage that we got to do if we want to compete with the big boys. So do you see any change in the average age of a college freshman, the average age of a college team with this new CHL rule, or do you see it kind of staying the same?
With specifically to the CHL rule, I think it probably stays about the same. I think most schools will bring in their top player. You're going to have some of the first round picks that want to play their 17-year-old year in college, like Gavin McKenna did and Macklin Celebrini did, and those players, or their draft year. They may enter at 17. But that's a handful of players. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of players like that, right? I think in most cases, even NHL teams would want to see their players, if they're drafted out of the CHL, get to their 19 or 20-year-old year and then go to college, because it delays when they have to sign them to an American League deal. They don't have to sign them at 20. They could sign them at 22 or 23. So with respect to the CHL rules specifically, I don't think that changes very much. What could change a lot, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, is the potential 5-year eligibility clock that the NCAA is proposing now, which would also require players to enroll either immediately following their high school graduation or when they turn 19, whichever comes first. That's when the clock would start. That could make it younger, because I think, and not by much, maybe by a year, but I think you'd see those players that would normally get to their 20-year-old year in the USHL or the CHL, if they want 5 years of eligibility, and I think most players will want that option. Not all of them will take it, but they'll want that option. They're all going to may defer their enrollment or may repeat a year, so they graduate high school at 19, but they're going to want to come to college at 19 instead of 20. So I think that the 20-year-old freshman probably becomes a 19-year-old freshman with that potential implementation. Gotcha.
I definitely want to talk about that, because that's a little bit newer, and that's seemingly looking like it's going to pass. And it's got a lot of people talking, but just real quickly want to stick with the CHL for a second, because when this rule first came down, there was a lot of tension between the CHL and the NCAA. I mean, there has been for years based on recruiting battles and wars with that stuff. But, now there's going to be NCAA coaches in major junior buildings recruiting their players to come to their schools at 18, 19 years old, when they still have a year of eligibility to play in the CHL to help them win a championship and potentially a Memorial Cup. How has that evolved much? I mean, I've heard some things, and obviously there's going to be animosity anytime you're taking anybody's players, but how has that relationship evolved within, I guess, two ways? Number one, the CHL and college hockey, but then also the CHL and the USHL. I'd love to hear your take on both of those things.
Yeah, I think in terms of college, it's team to team.
Yeah,
I know some coaches that are like, I've got a great relationship with this head coach in the WHL, and it's kind of been fostered over the last year. Other teams are a little more combative still. I was reading a story today. There was the GM, I think it was Kelowna, and the WHL was quoted. It was like, if you don't want to come here and play your full term, I don't want you. Like, he's talking about players, which was quite the take. But
interesting take.
I sarcastically said to somebody, I guess they won't be trading or releasing players then. That's interesting. That's a bold strategy.
Yeah.
But it's so there is still some animosity there for sure. That's why, I don't think we can say, hey, everything's great. And I don't think we can say that everything's awful between those sides either, because there are some teams in the CHL that are trying to work with college teams to move their players on. Again, I talked to some coaches that have said it's kind of team to team. Some teams are easier to work with than others. Because of the personnel there, and that is, I think, to be expected. I think in terms of, obviously, the college coaches have had a great relationship with the USHL coaches for a very long time. The USHL is not shy about saying, our goal is to move our players to college hockey. That's, one of their missions. In terms of how the USHL and the CHL have gotten along, that seems to be getting better too. I think the NHL is doing a lot to try to.
Oh yeah,
there's a relationship. Yeah. There's even been rumors of, will we see some exhibition games at some point between, I think it was close this year too. I don't know if it was the USHL and the OHL, but there was, I kind of had heard that there was, it got pretty close to there being either a series of exhibitions or something to that effect between the two leagues working together and putting a series together, which I think would be interesting. So I think that they'll figure out ways to work together. The USHL, I know, is very open to anything and everything, which I think they should be. And it's just about how receptive it'll be on the other side.
Yep. Awesome stuff. So seismic change number one, the CHL is now available to come down to play college hockey. Great stuff there, Mike. The next thing that I want to talk about, and I'm a former college hockey coach, still talk to a lot of people in the business. And I think the one that causes, let's say, the most stress for college hockey coaches is the transfer portal. It is just a different world, to say the least, than when I was in it 10 years ago. And even, when it started a couple years ago. And when I was at Michigan, it was just starting. Like, it was the first kind of year that it was becoming a thing. And my God, like, did we open up a can of worms? And I know when the rule came down, everybody was kind of like, how's this going to go? Is there going to be a lot of kids? Is there not going to be a lot of kids? Is it going to be more, university club driven where they're going to cut kids to go into the transfer portal? Is it going to be more kids that didn't like their experience, so they put themselves in the portal? Like, there were so many just unanswered questions, and I still think there's a lot of unanswered questions because we're still pretty young in the process. But what have been some of the biggest takeaways from all the reporting that you do and all the people that you talk to in college hockey as far as how the transfer portal has really shifted the landscape of college hockey today?
I think the best way I can sum it up was I was talking to Scott Borick, who's the coach at Merrimack, about this. It was during the season. It was probably January, February. And he's been doing it a long time, right? He was a long-time assistant at UNH, Providence, was at Lake State as a head coach in the late 90s as well. And, he had said to me, when I started doing this in this business, right, you built programs. You would recruit players, and your goal was, even if you were new, like, the best version of your team would have been year 3 or year 4, because it was going to take some time to kind of put your imprint on a team. And he said, you no longer do that. We're no longer trying to build programs. You're just trying to build the best roster you can for next season. That's really what it's turned into. And I think you see that with every team. There's some teams, like, you look at this past year, like Arizona State has had a bunch of players go in the portal, and they've grabbed a bunch of players from the portal. Same things happened at Maine. They've had some guys that went in, some guys that signed pro, and they've grabbed a ton of players out of the portal this cycle. So that, I think, sums it up the best. You're no longer building a roster to build a program. You're trying to build the best team you can for next year. And then a year from now, you're trying to build the best team you can for the year after that, because you don't know beyond next year whether or not you're going to have a guy. And that's true for a returning player, a freshman, or a guy you get out of the portal. There's multiple players that have gone to the portal more than once. So, you don't know who you're going to have year to year. So you're basically just building next year's roster, and you really can't plan for much beyond that.
Yeah, it's wild because, as coaches, you can have a little bit of an idea of, this is happening. It's really important for coaches to have a pulse on their team. And I know there's a lot of coaches that are maybe a lot more upfront in these conversations, like going to players and say, hey guys, like, if you are thinking of transferring, please let us know. Mm-hmm. We won't hold it against you, kind of thing. They might be full of crap, but
conversations happen in February. Like, it's not even at the end of the season. Like, some of them are happening in season, because that's kind of when the recruiting starts.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And so, I mean, I thought it was crazy that the transfer portal started before the season was over. Like, it's the NCAA tournament, and the transfer, it's like, so you got to plan for trying to win a national championship, but you also have to be on the phone, constantly, with agents and advisors and junior coaches and everybody and everything in between. And so, yeah, it's just kind of crazy how it's all transpired, but you never know as a coach who's going to come into the office and say, hey, I'm going somewhere else. And then you're like, okay, that wasn't part of the plan. So just like SB said, like, all right, I guess we gotta pivot here. Let's go. And it's crazy. And I wonder for you, in what you're hearing from, like college hockey coaches, but also like, I think the most important people in college hockey recruiting right now are the advisors and the agents. They're the middlemen, the in-betweens, where a kid can say, hey, I'm not liking it here. What else is out there for me? Or, a coach that says, hey, I'm looking for a top line right winger. Is there anybody that that's interested? And let's keep that on the DL for right now. But, when the transfer portal hits, what do you think? And it kind of sucks, honestly, because like loyalty, I feel like, was such a big part of my experience as a college athlete. And I remember we went back to Cornell. There was about 25 of us from a championship team that went back, and we were sitting around talking about, our experience there. And then we were talking about kind of what college hockey is like today. And a legitimate conversation that we had with each other was like, would you have been here for 4 years? Like, if we had the ability to transfer, would you have? And Schaaf was a tough coach to play for. And that does by no means does that mean he was a bad coach. He's one of the top coaches in college hockey, but he demanded a lot out of you. And some people don't like that. And it might have been very easy for them to say, I don't like this, and I'm going to go somewhere else where I think it might be a little bit easier. But every single one of us was like, I don't know if I would have. Some of the guys were kind of like, I definitely would have. But knowing what I know now, I'm so happy that I didn't, because I got to develop these huge relationships with you guys, and I just had an amazing experience. And maybe I didn't play much my freshman and sophomore year, and maybe I didn't like the way that my coach was treating me, but like I understood by my junior and senior year what he was doing, and it was really, really good for me. He was just holding me accountable. Mm-hmm. And those we just had like a really open conversation over some beers for sure. So it was funny, but like I think the older guard of college hockey is just really kind of sad for what it has become, because it's so much more of a transactional culture, and both ways. Players going into an office and saying, I don't like it here, I want to go. And coaches bringing players in the office and say, you're not good enough, we found somebody better, so hit the road. And so how are you in your conversations with everybody that you know in college hockey? How do they feel about just the culture of college hockey in general, with what the transfer portal has brought to the overall landscape?
Yeah, so I think some coaches are, hey, you got to adapt, and this is what it is now. We can't change it, so we just have to try to exist the best we can. I also talk to coaches that have been around for a long time who are like, this is not what I signed up for. Like,
yeah.
This is why I wanted to work in college hockey. And I get that. I really do. And I think it's different. I think that I do think it's helped a little bit where the window this year, for the first time, they moved the window and shortened it. So it didn't start during the tournament like it did before, which helped.
Thank God.
It helped for me too. I mean, geez, we're trying to cover the most important games of the year, and it's like, you're trying to, which 50 players entered the portal today. So I appreciate it. But and then also shortening the window. Like, it just closed earlier this week. It was open for 2 weeks. Before, it was open for almost 2 months.
Yeah.
And there were coaches that found out the middle of May on the last, I think it was last year or the year before, the portal closed on May 5th. And there were players that went in on May 4th and told their coaches, hey, I'm out. And you now missed out on 2 months worth of players as a coach that you could have went and tried to recruit to replace that guy. But if you get told last minute that he's going into the portal, most of the top guys in the portal are gone at that point. So I think shortening the window will help it a little bit, but it's not going to help in terms of numbers. I mean, this year, the most players that ever entered the portal coming into the season was last year, 308, I think it was. And we broke that this year. There was 300. Actually, I have it open right here. It was, let's see, 341 total players were in the portal, just Division I this year. And that includes 18 guys that were trying to use a fifth year, which I don't think they'll be able to do. But even if you take those guys out, it's 323. And about only half of them at this point have committed to a new school. And that's,
buyer beware.
what I mean, and you're right. Some of those guys were pushed there, 100%. I saw somebody on Twitter recently that replied to something I wrote about the portal that was something to the effect of like, wow, a lot of guys with 5 points think that the grass is greener somewhere else. And I'm like, no, they don't. They were told they were cut. Like, the bottom line is those guys were cut. And you look up and down the remaining guys in the portal, there's a lot of players. I'm looking at it here. There's about, of the skaters anyway, of the 300 or so or 280 skaters in there, geez, about 150 of them had 10 points or less last year. So I think the majority, not all of them, but the majority of those guys are probably told, hey, we grabbed 4 guys out of the CHL. You should probably transfer or whatever. Or we're going to grab 2 guys out of the portal, so you need to go. I mean, that absolutely happens, and it goes both ways.
All right. Beat the transfer portal to a dead horse. Great stuff there, Mike. Last one, that's currently a rule anyway that I wanted to ask you about. And we talked a little bit about it already, but it's, having the ability to pay your players. And, I think the general consensus out there, and you've written a lot about this, is like, how much of an effect does this have on hockey? Obviously football and basketball are huge revenue generating sports. And so, those sports have kind of gone crazy, but how much is paying a player actually moving the needle for college hockey and specific teams over others. What are the things that you're hearing? What are the things that you're seeing? How much of an effect is being able to pay players having on college hockey?
So I'll say this. I was wrong about this, I think, originally. When it first started happening, my initial thought was hockey's an expensive sport to play. Most of these guys come from situations where the scholarship is good enough. Like an extra 25 grand probably isn't going to make much of a difference if they really like school A over school B, right? I think where I miscalculated it was it's not necessarily about the money. It is about it's what the money represents. So if a player feels like they are better than player B and that player is getting 25,000 from a school, that player A is going to want 35 or 40 because, hey, I'm better than that player. So there's two schools of thought, it seems like to me, with schools that have opted to pay players. First of all, I guess let's talk about budgets. On the smaller end, I think most schools that are paying players probably have a revenue share budget of $100,000 to $200,000 total for their whole team. At the higher end, you can imagine which schools are at the higher end. You're probably between $750,000 and I think there's some schools that might be approaching $1 million that they can spend on their hockey roster. It's how that money gets split up that I think is different between some teams. Some teams have opted to play a handful of players a lot of money. I think that has created locker room issues. I think it created some locker room issues this year with teams that opted to do it that way. There's other teams that have said, hey, you know what? We have whatever our number is total. We are going to basically say every single guy on our roster gets 40 grand. Everybody gets the same. I think that helps. There's other teams. The one that I think works the best personally, that I think will work the best over time, are teams that have essentially set it up as retention bonuses. Like you get every freshman is going to get this amount. Every sophomore is going to get this amount. Every junior is going to get this amount. Every senior is going to get this amount. And the ways coaches have pitched it to me is the more you invest in our program, the more the program will invest in you. I think that the money itself, like I've heard a lot of coaches, especially recently, say that the money doesn't matter. I think that's easy to say when you have it. I think ultimately the money opens the door, right? I don't think a player is going to choose a school over a different school because that school may have offered $5,000 or $10,000 more. I don't think that's happening. But I think if a player is looking at offers and he's got 4 offers that all range between 60 and 70,000, yeah, he's going to go to one of those 4 schools. If another school comes in and offers him 10, he's not going there, right? So like that's where I think the money becomes, or where the money is making the biggest play. I think it's opening the doors for certain players. And again, that's where I just don't buy the money doesn't matter. The money does matter, because if the money didn't matter, the schools that are spending that amount of money on players wouldn't be doing it. So the money does matter. I think the money opens the door, especially for the real high end player, like the player that's gonna demand $75,000 to $100,000, which are top level NHL picks. Like those types of guys. Some guys even get more. You need to have a certain amount of money to even have that guy answer the phone, or else he's not answering your call. And then once you get into the weeds with that player and he gets it down to 3 or 4 teams and the money's close on all of them, yeah, I don't think money's the determining factor, but I think money is going to determine whether or not he calls you back.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I love what you said there about just kind of like, it's not just the tangible money in the bank account. It's this is what you think of me. And yes. there was, you can make a similar argument when you can cut up your scholarships however much you wanted to. And, this school's offering me 3 for 4. This school's offering me all 4 years. And, in an affluent sport like hockey, sometimes that might move the needle or not for a family. But it's more like, okay, they want me that much. And when I advise kids, when they're looking at different schools, one of the biggest things that I ask is, how much do they want you? Like, What do you think is going to be your opportunity? Where are you slotting the lineup? Like, are you going to be in and out kind of person? Or like, do you think that you can come in and play right away? And like, how much have the coaches talked to you about your game and development plan? And money is a way that can talk, and how much they value you in their program. So yeah, it's not just the tangible tangible, dollars and cents in the bank account. It's the ego, it's the want.
Yeah, especially like if you're on a team where you're looking around and you're like, hey, my buddy just got 35,000 from this school. Well, I'm better than he is. Like, he's on our second line. I'm on our first line. Like, he got 35. I should be getting at least 50. Like that. But that's what goes through the mind of a 17-year-old, right? Like, that's the reality. And that's where I think it's become. I think it's become a bigger issue than I thought it was going to originally. And it's absolutely an issue in the portal. I've talked to coaches over the last, because it's been open for 2 weeks. Over the last couple of weeks, I've talked to more than one coach that has said, like, hey, I'll call a kid's advisor, and the first thing he says is, hey, so-and-so is offering us 30. If you can't beat that, like, let's just start there. And like, so like a lot of times that's where the conversation is at least again with the higher end players, that's where the conversation is starting. Like, hey, before I even waste 10 minutes on the phone with you, are you at least at 30 grand? Because that's what we have from 2 other schools. If the answer is no, we should just probably, like, let's just move on now. So it's playing a role. Like, there's no doubt it's playing a role. Yeah, the money's not as big as it is in football. No one's making $8 million, right? Like, I think this wasn't there a quarterback. I think they made $8 million last year or something.
Yeah, I think the Michigan quarterback Underwood, right?
It may have been, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, no one's making that kind of money, but it's still there. And some teams have a $750,000 budget to split amongst 26 players, and some teams have a $100,000 budget. Some teams have a $0 budget. And, I don't think it's a mistake that the ones that have the bigger budgets are the ones that are winning more games.
Yeah, outside of Western Michigan winning the national championship without, doing it. But that's changing. Yeah. I think we had Firsch on the podcast after that. He was talking about it, but we were like, yeah, but you're probably gonna have to fundraise, a little bit after this, right?
And the money, like, we talk about rev share and house settlement. The other thing that a lot of coaches have said to me, which I think is interesting, there's so much different kinds of money they can give players.
Yeah,
players don't know the difference. If it's Alston money, if it's full cost of attendance money, is it rev share? Is it NIL? They don't care. They don't care what you're calling it. The dollar amount is all that really matters.
Just give me the final tally, baby.
Yeah. What's the number? Like, I don't care what you're calling it. You can call it Alston money. You can call it rev share. You can call it cost of attendance, which is pricey at some schools. They don't care. They just want to know what's the dollar amount.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. We got the big 3 that are there right now. And then we got one more coming up the hopper here that has the potential to, again, seismically change the landscape of college hockey. And that is adding a 5th year to college eligibility with a stipulation that it can start, I think it's either after you graduate high school or at 19, whichever comes first. You probably know a lot more about that than I do. But could you explain where this rule is at as far as it being discussed, when it will potentially be voted on, when it will be potentially, a rule? It sounds like it's going to happen. Again, anything can happen, but it sounds like this is going to pass. And then, after the logistical side of it, how this is going to affect college hockey, because college hockey is a different animal than every other sport. We have junior hockey. Most kids come in at 20 years old, and junior hockey is a business, and that this may affect the bottom line for the biggest pipeline into college hockey that there is. And so, yeah, first things first, just like logistically, what is this bill? Where is it at? And then we could get into kind of how it's going to affect the landscape.
Yeah, it's being pushed right now by Charlie Baker, NCAA president. And it looks like it's going to pass. A lot of the Power 4 conferences are on board, which ultimately, when it comes to NCAA matters, is all that really matters, is what those Power 4 schools think, or Power 4 conferences think. They all seem to be on board with it. The reason they're doing it is, I think, for 2 things. It gets rid of a bunch of eligibility-based lawsuits that the NCAA has right now, where they denied a player a red shirt waiver for whatever reason, and then that player sued them. And there's hundreds of those, I think, pending right now. The NCAA looks at this as a way to get rid of all those in one fell swoop, right? The other thing is it takes a lot of administrative paperwork out of their hands. Red shirts won't be a thing anymore. You have 5 years to play 5 seasons. There are no more red shirts. If you miss a year because you got hurt, too bad. You're not going to get another year. I mean, there's a couple of exceptions. I think there's like religious-based missions will get you an extra year. There was a few, but there weren't many exceptions. It was basically you have 5 years to play 5. That's why it wipes out some lawsuits and it takes away some work that they have to do ruling on redshirt waivers every single year. So that's why they want to do it. And it does look like it'll be voted on probably in May. I think it's end of May that the D1 Council meets, I believe. I don't have the exact dates, but they'll meet at some point in May. And it certainly seems like it's gonna pass, and that'll be the new reality starting next year, which that's why, as we talked about earlier with the portal, there's about 18 players in there that I've already played 4 years that put themselves in the portal with the hope that the NCAA would add a fifth year. The NCAA said earlier this week, if this passes, it is no one's being grandfathered in. So like the players whose eligibility just expired after their fourth year, sorry, you only get 4. The players that are going to play next year, hey, you have 5. We'll see how that works out from a legal standpoint. That feels to me like it's another lawsuit waiting to happen. But if I was a player whose eligibility just expired, I feel like that's probably a lawsuit waiting to happen. But that's where it stands right now. I agree. It looks very much like it's going to pass.
Crazy stuff. And then how is this? Well, first of all, when does that clock start? Like, is it, I've heard after you graduate, I've heard when you're 19, when does that 5-year clock start potentially for these kids if this rule passes?
It would start either the academic year following your high school graduation or following your 19th birthday, whichever one comes first. Which I think means, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people are like, well, no, you're going to have all these parents reclassing their kids. That kind of happens a lot now anyway. But it's going to happen more and more, right? Because I mean, again, you're going to want options open to you. So I think that you're going to see more of that. And then as specifically to hockey, I mean, if it starts to apply next year, I have no idea what that's going to look like. I mean, what about an 05 who committed to come in next year as a 20-year-old? Is he now losing eligibility or losing years of eligibility for a rule that changed in between when he committed and when he actually showed up to campus?
Yeah.
That, again, it seems like it's a legal nightmare waiting to happen. But going back to what we said earlier, these decisions are not made by people that understand hockey. They are made by people at the NCAA level that are just applying rules across all of their sports without really understanding the intricacies of each sport. And that's why I think hockey's roster cap is lower than it should be. That's why this rule change potentially for hockey could be a disaster, because you have a lot of 05s, 06s, and 07s right now that may have graduated high school early. Even an 07 could have graduated high school last year, and his clock started and he didn't know. You know, he graduated from high school last year, and now he's playing in the USHL, and he didn't realize his eligibility clock started because it wasn't a rule then. What do you do with those players? That just seems like a nightmare.
Oh boy. And all of these rules, if I'm not mistaken, were kind of brought to the forefront because of litigation and lawsuits against the NCAA, right? Like somebody sued the NCAA and it seems like they can't win a court case to save their life. So it's just kind of like, all right, whatever you want to do, let's go.
I mean, that's literally how that's how the rev share started happening. It's how the transfer portal happened. They kept getting sued and they kept losing. And it ultimately came down to the simplest way I can explain it is I talked to a couple of sports attorneys about this who said, you know, it's way different in pro sports than it is in college. In pro sports, there are rules that limit players, salary caps, things of that nature, but they're collectively bargained. So the players have accepted those limitations. In college sports, you had a bunch of rules that limited players, and the players had no say in those rules, which violates U.S. antitrust law.
Do you think that there's a unionization thing that's going to happen? Like, is that, I mean, we've been talking about that now for, I don't know how many years, but it's never really come across. But talking about that collective bargaining and, giving some power to potentially the players to have a little bit of a say in what's going on. Do you see that happening at any point in the near future? Because that would be another seismic shift.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I don't know how close we are to it, but it does feel like it's as close as it's ever been.
Okay.
And it may be inevitable. Like, one of the things I've said, even in regards to the portal, I've said this for a while. One of the things you could do, in my estimation, to help teams roster plan is treat their aid agreement like a contract. Like if you sign a 2-year rev share and scholarship agreement, you can't go into the portal for 2 years. That team also can't cut you for 2 years because that happens too. But at least it's negotiated with every single player. And maybe at the end of those 2 years, you're at Cornell and you're like, hey, I love it here. I'm not going anywhere. I want to sign another 2-year extension and I want to graduate from here. Or maybe you decide to go somewhere else. Maybe a player decides he wants to sign a 4-year deal as a freshman. Maybe a player decides, you know what, I'm going to wherever. It's not really where I wanted to go. I only want to sign a 1-year deal because I want to leave my option open to maybe transfer if I pop as a freshman. Every player is going to want something different, but at least if it's negotiated and you're signing some sort of contract, like I think that takes, again, not a lawyer, but I think that takes some of the legal issues out of the way because, yeah, you might be telling a player he can't go into the portal for 2 years, but the player agreed to that when he signed the deal. And from a coaching standpoint, at least you can look at your roster and go, okay, these 4 guys are graduating and these 3 guys have their aid agreements that expire. We have to talk to those 3. You don't have to talk to your whole team and recruit your whole team every year. You may just have to re-recruit 4 or 5 or 6 guys every year whose agreements are expiring, as opposed to going, we got to sit down with every single one of our players and find out if they're coming back.
Oh boy. It's just like, it seems like it's never going to end. Like all these changes, but that's why honestly, like, I love reading your stuff because you're so knowledgeable and so in the know about so many of these things that are going on. And so it helps me in what I do to answer questions. I'll go to a College Hockey Insider, Mike McMahon newsletter, or go to your Twitter feed or something like that because you've written about something and it's such good stuff. Mike, where can people find you? And I do want to pump your newsletter here because I am a subscriber. I know that there are like NHL coaches and there are agents and there's so many different people that rely on the work that you do. It's just such great stuff. Where can they find you? I know you're on Twitter, but like, how can they, check out your newsletter and just where can people find you at?
Yeah. collegehockeyinsider.com. You can sign up right there. And then at Mike McMahon, CHN on Twitter. And you know what? Before we leave, I was working on this before we started recording. I haven't written about this yet. So this is exclusive here.
Are we breaking news? Are we breaking news right now or what?
It's not major, but a little bit. We're talking about what happens to the 05s, 06s, 07. What happens to the implementation of the eligibility rule, the 5-year clock for college hockey. The commissioners, in conjunction with the Coaches Association, are going to be writing a position paper that they are going to be sending to the NCAA in regards to specifically rolling out those new rules in men's ice hockey. So they're going to try to get a seat at the table and have some say in how the rule gets implemented, at least for hockey, because of junior hockey. Again, people making these rules probably don't even know that junior hockey exists, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the reality. So it sounds like the commissioners and the coaches, that'll probably be a topic in Naples. What is this position paper going to look like? Oh
yeah. Big time. That just sounded so academic too. We're going to write a position paper. We're going to collaborate. All that fun stuff. Well, Mike, we're going to keep you for a couple more minutes to do a 10 questions that we're going to house in our Hockey Think Tank community. And I got some fun college hockey questions for you. Just be a little rapid fire stuff, but thank you so much for your time today. This has been a lot of fun. Time, I think, flew by here. So really appreciate your time and your wisdom on college hockey. And check out the College Hockey Insider, guys. Awesome stuff. And see you in the community. Let's go. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a new customer offer. Bet player props, bet live. From the opening faceoff to the final horn, every moment matters. New DraftKings customers bet just $5 and you'll get $100 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN so you're ready for the moment. That's code THPN. Turn $5 into $100 in bonus bets instantly. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026. NHL. All rights reserved.